Hi everyone. I got a request from one of you guys that I should please make a video of how we can load data sets into an Amazon Redshift from an Amazon S3 bucket using AWS Glue, and thereafter connect a Power BI to the Amazon Redshift for visualization. Okay, and that is what I want us to explore in this video. Okay, however, I try to make things simple right here by using a data set that is downloaded from the Kaggle website. I'm going to show you the data set. We are going to download it manually. Okay, I'm going to show you the data set. Okay, and then we are going to manually drop it in Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, I want to try as much as possible to make this video as simple as possible. Okay, so that means that let's assume that there is some process upstream that is dropping some files of data into an Amazon S3 bucket for you, and you are being asked to create a glue job which you can then orchestrate using Apache Airflow that will crawl the Amazon S3. Okay, on top of that, it's going to create glue data catalog, and then you can load that into Amazon Redshift. So you are being asked to automate this process right here. Your Apache Airflow, is going to trigger a glue job which is going to grab this Amazon S3 bucket, crawl it, and then load that data set, okay, into Amazon Redshift. Okay, so we are going to use Apache Airflow to automate that loading of the data set also into the Amazon Redshift cluster. Okay, and then we will download Power BI that we can use for visualization. Okay, and also I will show you how you, as a data analyst or data engineer or data scientist, you can then, or even product owner, you can then use Amazon Athena to be able to write queries directly on top of this glue data catalog which we have gotten from this Amazon S3 bucket. So you can quickly write out SQL queries to see what the data is and what the data is telling you based on questions that you are trying to answer. Okay, so this is all we are going to be doing in this project, guys. It's going to be interesting, guys. Okay, now let me quickly take you to the data set we are going to be using. Okay, so if we come to this link right here, I will give you this link in the description below. Okay, so this link is going to take you to the Kaggle website where the data set is. It is a telco customer churn data set. That's telecommunication customer churn data set. You can see that they say this is a fictional telco company. Let me see if I can zoom that. Okay, I think this is good. So a fictional telco company that provided home, phone, and internet services to 7,043 customers in California in Q3. So we are going to be using this data set. So we can download the data set from here. I've already downloaded mine, and I'm going to be giving you that data set in my GitHub folder. Okay, I'm going to put the link to my GitHub folder, to my GitHub inside the description, so you can download the data set from there. However, if you also want to download it from here, you can. If you click this download button, then you're going to be asked to sign in. Okay, if you already have an account with them. If you don't have an account, then you can come to register to create an account. Okay, but like I said, I already have the data set. So let me show you how the data set looks and what I did. Okay, because what I did in this is that I downloaded the data set. It's going to be an XLSX file. Okay, you can see telco customer churn.slsx. But what I did was just to change this extension to .csv. I want to work with CSV. Okay, so now this .csv, if I open this right here for you guys, let me show you the data set. this is the data set right here. You can see that we have a lot of columns right here. We have customer ID, count, country, state, city, zip code, latitude, longitude. You can see that gender, senior citizen. You can see tenure months, partner, phone service, multiple lines. You can see, if you go all this far, you can see how much the customers are paying the telco company. Let's assume the telco company is our company. Okay, we can see that right here. You can see the monthly charges, the total charges, then the churn label. You see, is the customer leave us or not? If it is yes, that means that is a churn. The customer left us, and that is why you see the value 1. So yes is 1, no is 0. The churn score, CLTV, the churn reason, the reason they left us. Okay, so now what I did to this data set is that I divided this data set into 3. If you look at this right here, the total rows is 7,044. But if you take out the header, if you take out this header, okay, then it's going to be, the number of rows is going to be 7,043 rows. Okay, so what I did was just to divide this data set into different chunks, into 3 chunks. So take, for example, I can say, okay, I want to take this number of rows and save it in one data set, which is what I can show you right here. So you can see I labeled this telco customer churn 1. You can see that I only have how many rows, right? I only have 29 rows right here. If you go to the second one, which I created, this one has 570, because it's going to be 571 minus the header. Okay, so that's going to be 570 rows, and then the remaining goes into this third one, customer churn 3. Okay, and the reason I did that is basically for us to be able to see what's going on when we add that data set, each of those data sets, into this Amazon S3 bucket, and then we trigger our Airflow to run, so that the glue job is going to crawl the data set and load it inside this Amazon Redshift. Okay, so that means that if we have the first file, we should be able to see the number of rows of such data, right? And then if we put the second file, right, then we should be able to see the number of rows, okay, increased. And then if we put the third file, we should be able to see the number of rows increased. Okay, and that is what I wanted us to see right here in this project. Okay, now that you guys know what data set we want to use, and you guys also know that we had downloaded this manually, we are going to put it in S3 buckets, and then we are going to use a glue job, to finish up the remaining process. Now you understand this project, let us start building something, guys. Now the first thing we are going to do is to go ahead to provision our EC2. Okay, now you have seen me do this before, so that should be pretty easy for you guys that have been following my work. But for those of you that are new right here, so go to aws.com. okay, and then if you don't have an account, go ahead and create an account. If you have an account already, then go ahead with this process. Okay, and for those of you that are new, if you also want to go and explore the other Airflow project that I've done on AWS, you can go to my, as you are right now on my channel, I have a playlist right here that are called Apache Airflow playlist. I have a bunch of all these videos right here from the first to the latest. Okay, you can go ahead and explore all of that. Okay, now we can come right here, and then you can search for EC2. When you search for EC2, this is it right here. I can right click and open a new tab. Okay, right here I don't have any instance running. I can come right here and say launch instance. Now if I click on launch instance, I can give my EC2 a name. I'll come right here, I'll give it this name. I've pasted it right there, and then I'll select Ubuntu. Okay, and then I'm in this free tier eligible, that's fine. Okay, and then I'm going to select my instance type right here, and because I'm going to be using Airflow, I like to use T2 medium. Okay, T2 small could work, but then you could be having your EC2 freezing up on you. Okay, so T2 medium does a good job. I will select that. Okay, and then my keep here login right here. For those of you that don't have a .pm file already created, a keep here, you can click on this and create new keep here. If you don't know how to do this, if you go to my previous video on this, there is a video right here that I say how to remotely SSH Visual Studio Code to AWS EC2. If you go right here, I'll put the link up to this video in the description. Okay, I showed right here how you can create a new keep here. Okay, so you can take a look at this video if you don't know how to do that. Okay, but in my case, I already created a new keep here, so I'll come right here and I'll just select the keep here right there. Okay, and then I'll come right here and then I will check this and I will check this. I'm allowing HTTP and HTTPS and HTTP from the internet, and also I'm allowing SSH traffic. So I think that should be good enough for this project. I will say launch instance, and this instance is going to be launched. You can see this is successfully launched. So I'll come back to this instance, and then you can see this is the EC2 guys that we just created. Okay, now you can see right here this is in pending state. We have been assigned a public IP v4. Okay, so what we would like to do now is we would like to now start installing dependencies, okay, on this our EC2, and I'm going to be showing you guys right now. If you want, you can just refresh this just to see if this is running now. This is still pending. Let's give it a few more seconds. It should show running very soon. Give it. Okay, very good. You can see now it is in running state. Okay, I will check this, and then if I check it, then I'll come to connect. If I click connect, make sure you are in this tab, EC2 instance connect, so that I want to open up a terminal for myself where I can start installing dependencies. So I clicked on connect, and then I will start installing dependencies right now. Okay, so you can see right here I'm inside Ubuntu and this IP. So I will right click, I will paste sudo apt update. So I'm going to update this EC2. Okay, and then that's going to take a few seconds. Let's see what happens. Okay, that is done. And then the next thing I'm going to do right here is I'm going to do a sudo apt install python 3-pip. So I want to install pip right here, Python package manager, and then I'm going to say yes. I'll put y right there. Okay, and then I'm going to say yes. Okay, and then I'll click enter. Okay, that's going to complete installation right there. Let's give it a few seconds. Let it continue. Let it complete the installation. Almost there. So now that we have this, we can just press escape on our keyboard. If I press escape, okay, that brings me back here. Okay, but if you are getting something like this, you can see this says 99% done. So pretty much usually when I see something like this, it's done. It's just the terminal that is not showing me all those logs to be able to see everything that is going on. So what I will just do right here is I will just come right here back to my connect here. I'll just open another terminal and then I'll proceed. Okay, I'm establishing a connection right here, and then okay, now we are here right now. So what I'm going to do right here now is to go ahead and then I'll do a sudo apt install python 3.10-venv. I want to install a virtual environment here. I will say let it run, then I will say yes. I'll click enter. Okay, now this also gives me this. I will just press escape. Press escape. Okay, very good. That is done. Now, since we have installed virtual environment, now let us create a virtual environment. So what I call this is, I say Python 3-m venv customer churn u2 underscore venv. That's the name I'm giving my virtual environment. So this is going to create a virtual environment for me. Okay, now it has created a virtual environment. What I would like to do is to activate my virtual environment. How do I do that? I will say source customer churn u2 venv. That's the virtual environment that I just created, right? Then I'll say /bin /activate. I'll say enter. Now you can see right here, guys, that my virtual environment is already created right here. Let me close this right here. Okay, so now that we have activated our virtual environment, let us install our Apache Airflow. I will come right here, right click and paste Apache Airflow, sudo pip install Apache Airflow. I press enter. Okay, that is going to take some few seconds to run. Let's make sure that runs successfully. Okay, it's running. Let's give it some few more seconds. I try to make sure I show all this installation process, except otherwise, if it's not needed, then I will not show it. Okay, that is, this will help us to see what is running, so that when you are also trying the same project, you also know what you are expecting. Okay, so now the next thing we are going to do is a pip install Apache Airflow providers Amazon. Why am I doing this? Because as part of this project, we are going to be interacting with AWS services. Okay, so because of that, we need to install Amazon provider, Apache Airflow providers for Amazon. Okay, so I will install this right now, since we know we are going to be interacting with AWS service. Okay, so let's just do that right now. Okay, so that's going to take some few seconds also to install. Let's see what happens. If we get an error, then I will try to debug it. Okay, it's going to be done very soon, guys. Very good. That is done. Very, very good, guys. Very good, guys. Now the next thing now is, let us initiate our Airflow now to run. So we're going to have Airflow standalone. Okay, when you enter that, let's see what happens. Now our Airflow is creating admin user and doing all its necessary things in the background. Okay, and it's going to create for us a username and the password which we are going to be using. You see that, guys, Airflow is ready. Then admin password, this is it right here. Okay, however, for us to get to the UI of Airflow, so what we are going to do is we will go back to our EC2 and then we'll copy our public IP. You can copy this one right here, or if you want, you can come back to your instances, the EC2 instance that we are working on. I will check this, and then this public IPv4, I will copy this, and then I'll come right here and I will paste this, and then I'll put a column, then I'll put 8080, and this is the port that Airflow should be running. Okay, however, this is not going to be able to connect right now if I click enter. And why is that? That's because I have not given our EC2 permission. We have not updated the security groups for us to be able to connect to. I have not opened this port, this 880 port. Okay, so let us go ahead, let us go back to our EC2 and do that. So I'll come back to my EC2 and then I'll come to security and then this security groups right here, I will click this. So when I click that, you see inbound rules, I will come right here and I will do edit. You can see what we have right now is HTTP, HTTPS, and SSH. You can see the ports 80.443.22. We don't have 8080 yet. So I will say add rule, and then I'll put 8080 right here, and then custom, I will say anywhere IPv4. You can also select your IP, my IP, but in the case of mine, I will just do IPv4 right here. Okay, and I will say save rules. Now that means that we have given permission for us to be able to we have opened that port, basically 880, so that we can be able to access the Airflow UI. Now you can see right here, guys, if you refresh, you can easily see that. Okay, now let's remember that Airflow right here, that we initialize the Airflow. If you go back up, okay, you can see all this that you are seeing right here. This is normal. That is because now we are trying to interact with Airflow, okay, and that's why you see all this going on right here. Okay, so now you remember that our username is admin and this is our password. So I will copy this password, I will come right here and I will say admin, and then I will put the password right there. I will say sign in. Very good. Now you can see right here now that we have been able to sign in to Airflow. If you are able to get to this level, congratulations, guys. If you are not, I will advise you to take a look at what error might be going on and try to debug the issue, or maybe again go through the video again and try to follow along the way I did it. Okay, now if you look at what we have right here, DAGs. If you don't know what DAG is, I encourage you to go back to my very first video in this playlist, Apache Airflow playlist. Okay, this very first video, how to build and automate a Python ETL pipeline. I explained what all these things are, operators. I explained what DAG is, and all of that, so that you can better understand what Airflow is, what Airflow can do, and all of that. Okay, so now let us go back to this. You can see that we have different DAGs right here, and all these are the DAGs that Airflow by default gave to us upon installation. When we install Airflow, all these DAGs came with it. You can see right here we have 48 DAGs right here. When you are doing your whole project, take note, you may not see 48, you may see 50, you may see, because it depends on at what time that you are doing, because Airflow may have made some updates, right, that might make you to have a different number of DAGs right here. So if you see that, do not worry about that. Very good, guys, very good, guys. Now that we have that, okay, we want to start developing our code right here. But the first thing I would like us to do is that, for me, I like to develop using Visual Studio Code, okay? So what I like to do is, I like to connect my Visual Studio Code to my EC2 instance so that I can easily code directly. As you know, that it's not going to be easy for me to be on terminal and start coding right here, right? So I will want to code from my Visual Studio Code. Now I've already made a video that will help you guys to know how to connect to your to connect your Visual Studio Code to AWS EC2, and this is the video right here, how to remotely SSH or connect Visual Studio Code to AWS EC2 so that you can do your code development. So this is a short video, so I will encourage you, if you don't know how to do that, quickly go and watch this video so that you can know how to connect it, and then you can continue with this particular project. Okay, now in my own case, I have connected mine, and then I will be showing you guys right now, then we can start our code development. Okay, now in my own case, I have connected, and this is it right here. If you look at what I have right here, this is, you can see right here, this is my EC2. I have connected. Okay, now what I can do right now is to come right here to file, and then I can say open folder. you can see home Ubuntu. If I click OK, then you can be able to see what I have in my folder, or basically in my EC2. Okay, you can see the different files now or folders that I have in this EC2. Okay, now you can see that that is pretty easy, guys. Okay, that is pretty easy. So again, make sure, if you don't know how to do that, make sure you go through this video to learn how to do that. It is pretty easy and it is a short video, guys. Okay, very good, very good. Now what we want to do right here is I want you to come to Airflow CFG. If you come right here, okay, and then come down to load examples, what this load examples is saying is that, do you want Airflow to load those examples that came in as default? Remember, I was just showing you all these default DAGs. If I don't want this to be showing, then I need to update my code right here, my config, to be false. Okay, I will say this is false. Do you get that now? So if I say this is false and then I save and then restart my Airflow, you will see that this is going to disappear. Okay, but before that, there is also one other thing I also want to explain to you guys, is that when you are creating your DAG, you need to make sure that your DAG reside in a particular folder that you specify here. You can see this is DAGs folder. So that means that wherever my DAG is going to reside, I need to put the absolute path inside here, because this is where Airflow is going to look at. Airflow is going to come to this path right here and look for the DAG, and whatever .py file it sees is going to run it. Okay, now what do I need to do? If you don't want to use this specific path, you can change it to the path that you want, the absolute path that you want. But in the case of mine, I like to just use this path in this project. So what that means is that I go to home Ubuntu Airflow, and right here we are already in home Ubuntu. So all I just need to do is come right here to this Airflow, and then I'll right click, and then I'll create a folder. I'll call it DAGs. Okay, now you see, now I have DAGs right here. Okay, now inside this DAGs folder, then I can create a file. I can create a .py file. So I'll come back to this DAGs, and then I'll right click, I'll say new file, and then I'll put this right here, customer_churn_dag.py. I'll put this right here, guys. You can see that now I've already created the file. So that means that this file is going to be my DAG. Okay, how will Airflow know that that is my DAG? Airflow is going to come to this path and it's going to look for the .py file that is there, and from there it's going to know that that is my DAG. Okay, now you need to save this. So I'll save this. So now that I have saved this, I will then go back to my Airflow UI, then I will refresh. We should be able to see all this disappearing. But before that, we need to go and restart our Airflow, because anytime you make any changes to your config file, that's this config file .cfg, this .cfg, you need to make sure that you restart your Airflow. So I will do Ctrl+C to kill this, to kill the Airflow server. Okay, you can see shutting down all the components right now. So this is going to shut it down, and then we are going to restart it again. Okay, so it says shutting down components. I think this is taking some time. Let me do Ctrl+C again. Okay, I don't know why it was taking time, but doing the Ctrl+C again, I think there was some error. I say keyboard interrupt. Okay, I think I interrupted it with my Ctrl+C, but that's fine. Now it shows that at least it is, we have shut it down. Then I can come right here and then do Airflow standalone again. Okay, this is going to initialize again, and then we're going to have the same admin, the same username and the same password. You can see this is the same username and the same password. So what I will do, I'll come back to my UI and then I will just refresh. You can see right here, guys, very good. We don't have any DAGs here right now. Very good, guys, very good, guys. Now the next thing I want us to do is I want us to create an S3 bucket. Let's go back to our pipeline again. Remember that we said we were going to download the file, which we have already downloaded from the internet manually. We have it in our computer right now, okay? And then we are going to create an S3 bucket. Remember what I told you was that if you are assuming that there is some process upstream that is putting some files inside this S3 bucket, and what you want to do is you want to create glue jobs, to be able to crawl the data set and then load it inside Amazon Redshift. Okay, so that is why I don't want to spend too much time in this process right here. I don't want to automate this process. As a matter of fact, I've done videos that automated the process of connecting to API and then loading such data set into Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, let me take you to such videos, guys, just so you have an idea. Then you can also go and watch those videos where I've done all those things. If you look at this is a particular video right here, in which case I'm extracting data set from Open API weather map. I transformed it and I loaded it on AWS RDS Postgres. And then there was another one right here that is happening in parallel, where I loaded from S3 bucket directly to AWS RDS. All these are automated. These are not manual. Okay, and then I did a joint right here and then eventually load it on S3 bucket. And also there is a video right here also that I did, end-to-end data pipeline, where we extracted from Zillow Rapid API. All these are automated using Airflow that is installed in EC2 on the AWS cloud. You can see that when this data lands inside this bucket, it automatically triggers Lambda function, which copies the data into this intermediate zone. This then automatically trigger another Lambda function that does some transformation and then loads it inside this bucket. From this bucket, then we then loaded again using Airflow inside this Redshift, and then we connected QuickSight to this Redshift. So this type of project, you can also go through this for you to be able to understand how we can automate all of this, right? But for the sake of this particular video that we are doing right now, I'm downloading this manually. I showed you guys from the beginning of this project. But then now what we want to do is we want to create Amazon S3 bucket, and then we will now put one of those files. Remember that I divided those files into 3 parts. So we'll put the first one inside this S3 bucket, and then we'll then start creating a glue catalog and all of that on top of this Amazon S3 bucket file. Okay, so let's get going, guys, and create our Amazon S3 bucket. I hope you guys are getting all of this now. Okay, so now let me go to my AWS. I can come right here and I can say S3. If I put S3, I can then say open a new tab. Okay, and then I'm going to create an S3 bucket. I'm going to come right here. I'll say create bucket. Let me see if I can zoom this. Maybe that's too much. Okay, maybe this is okay. So I can say create buckets. I click that, and then I'll give my bucket a name. Remember, your bucket name needs to be unique globally. Okay, so you need to put a unique name. So like in this case, if you want to use the same name I'm using right here, you can just change this last part. Maybe you can use your own initial. Okay, maybe you can use your own initial. And also your AWS region, you need to select the region that you want. And most of the time it's good to just select the region that you also used for your EC2. Okay, like in my case, my EC2, you can see all my EC2 right here is my EC2 right here that I have is in Oregon, US West. You can see that. Okay, So in your own case, if you want, also make sure that it's in your region. So if you are in Mumbai or somewhere in Africa, all of that, or Europe, make sure you select, the one that is closest to you. Okay, very good. Now that I have this, I would go ahead and leave every other thing the same, and I'll say create bucket. Okay, and then I'll say create bucket. Now that I've created the bucket, you can see right here, this is the bucket that I've just created, guys. Then what would I do? I will click this to open it. Okay, now that I've opened it, then I will then drag one of those files inside. I'm going to be dragging the first one. You remember I told you that I divided those CSVs into 3, so I'm going to drag the first one right here. So which one am I dragging? I'm dragging telco customer churn 1 inside, and then I'll say upload. You see, upload succeeded, so I will close that, and then I will come back right here. So if you click, we already have that inside there. Very good. Now we have been able to create our Amazon S3, and then we have been able to load it with one data set, right? One file. Remember what I told you, that just assume that for this project that some process upstream have helped you to put a file inside this Amazon S3 bucket. Now our own job now is, let us now create a glue job, okay, that we can automate to help to get that data and then do whatever thing we want it to do. Okay, now the first thing we will then do in this case is to create a glue crawler, because we want the glue crawler to crawl these data sets. Okay, you can see what I have right here. Glue crawler is going to crawl this data set, and it's going to infer the schema of this data set. It's going to get the header and all of those things, okay, for us right there. So what you can do right now is you can just come to this search and type glue, and then I would right click and open a new tab. Okay, I will try as much as possible to to do my best to explain this to you guys. Okay, and also make sure that you are in the region that you want. Most especially, you probably want it to be in that same region where you have your EC2 and your S3 bucket. You can see mine right here. I'm in that same one, Oregon. Okay, now the first thing we want to do right here, guys, is that we want to create crawler. So what I can do right here is that I'm going to look for the crawler. If you come to data catalog, open that, and then I can come right here. I will say crawlers. Okay, take note that we want to crawl this S3 bucket. We are going to be creating 2 crawlers eventually. We are going to be crawling this Amazon S3 bucket. We are also going to be crawling our Amazon Redshift, because our Amazon Redshift, we are going to be creating tables inside eventually. So we also want to crawl that. But when we get there, I will show you that. Okay, but again, the first thing you want to do is you want to crawl the Amazon S3 bucket. Our Amazon S3 bucket has the file already for us. Okay, so you create crawlers. You see in my case I don't have any crawler right here yet. Then I'll say create crawler. Okay, let us give our crawler a name. It says enter a unique crawler name. Okay, so in my case I will just come right here and I will say S3 glue crawler. Okay, S3 glue crawler. If you want, in your case, you can put your initials and all of that. Yeah, but this unique, I'm not sure if this one is global or something, but you can try that. You can try to put this exact name that you have here and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then maybe this is not necessarily, that means that if it doesn't work, then that means it has to be unique globally. So in that case, then you have to just put your initial right there. But let's get going, guys. This is the name I'm giving it. I'm giving it S3 glue crawler. Why did I give it that? Because I want to crawl S3 using glue, just a simple name as that. Okay, and then these tags, I don't need anything right here. You can enter description. You can say, okay, this glue crawler is to crawl the S3 bucket for cargo, customer churn data set, whatever that would help your team to understand what you are doing. Then I will say next. Now that we are right here, you can see this is saying that is your data already mapped to glue tables. That is, have you already mapped this? Do you already have like the schema for this your data? But we don't have it yet. So you see, it says select one or more data sources to be crawled. That's, since we have not done that, if you say yes, it says select existing tables from your glue data catalog. That means that if you have already crawled it, it would have put the table in the glue data catalog. And that is why if you look at my schematics right here, I said we are going to crawl it, and then this will pass it to the glue data catalog, upon which we can then have our Athena. We can write some query on the Amazon Athena, or maybe we can even push that to Redshift. Okay, so let's get going, guys. So in the case of this, we don't have the data mapped yet. Okay, so in that case, what we can do is we can add data source. That is, which data source do we want to get the data from? Okay, so I will say it is S3. Let us look at the different source of data that we can crawl. We can crawl S3, JDBC. This one is going to be your Redshift and maybe some other things also. Then DynamoDB. You see, you can see the different one. Data Lake, Iceberg, UDI. Okay, but in the case of this one, we want our data source to be S3, so it should be JSON or CSV or package files stored inside S3. So in our case, we are using CSV. As you can see, that was why I changed that XLSX file to CSV to make life easier for us right here. Okay, so we have selected that. Network connection, we don't need this right now. So now where is the location of the S3? Is it inside this account or in a different account? We know that it is in this account, so I'm going to check this. And then the S3 path, I will just browse the S3 and then I will select it. You can see this is the S3 bucket. I will choose this. Okay, you see now it has populated. Now it's asking you that crawl all, should I crawl all subfolders, or I should crawl new subfolders only? This one says crawl all folders again with every subsequent crawl. Crawl new subfolders only. Only Amazon S3 folder that were added since the last crawl will be crawled. Okay, it says if the schemas are compatible, new partitions will be added to existing tables. Okay, but in the case of this, let us just say crawl all subfolders. Okay, now what happens is that some of these things you just need to play around with it if you don't really understand as much what's going on. Okay, this one says crawl based on events. Rely on Amazon S3 event to control what folders to crawl. One can also create an event to decide which one you are going to crawl. Maybe new file comes in, then you can just say, okay, for every new file, do this for me. Okay, one can also do that. Okay, but in the case of this, I will just say crawl all subfolders. Take note, you can also play around with this. After this project, you can decide to create another project for yourself out of this project that I'm showing you. Okay, now I will say add an S3 source. Now it has added. Custom classifiers, I don't have a classifier right here. In some cases, you can create a classifier, maybe a CSV classifier also, but in the case of this, I am not doing that. I will just say next. Now we need to add an IAM role right here. As you know that that we need to give this glue permission to be able to connect to the different AWS services that we want to use. Okay, so we need to create new IAM role because we don't have any role here. If I click on this drop down, you see I have not created any role. So I can maybe just I can just come right here. I can say IAM, and then I can right click to open a new tab. Then I can close this, so I can still be back on this UI. So now what I have right now is I can come to roles, so that I can create a role for my glue. So I can say create role, AWS services. Okay, now what service or what's the use case? I'll come right here and then I'll look for glue. You can either search for it right here, or you can scroll down. You see, when I type glue, you say data glue or glue, I will say glue. Okay, so choose the use case for the specified service, glue. This allows glue to call AWS services on your behalf. You can see that right here, guys. Then I will say next. Okay, now what access do I want to give my glue? I can give it administrator access. So that means that it's going to have a lot of power right here. It's going to, you see, it provides full access to AWS services and resources. So it's going to be able to connect to a whole lot of things right here. Okay, so I will say administrator access. That's the permission I'm giving it. Set permissions boundary, leave that. We don't have to do anything there. Then I'll say next. Now let me give that permission or that role a name. Let me give it a name. So I'll just say AWS glue administrative role. You can write description right here. As you can see, administrator access. I don't want to add any tag. I will say create role. Now you can see, say role AWS glue administrative role is created, and this is the role right here. Okay, then I can come back to this right here where we are configuring our crawler. Okay, I hope you guys are really getting this idea right now. Okay, now we have created our role. So what I need to do right here is I need to refresh this. Now I can then click this drop down, and now you can see the role right here, guys. I will click this. Okay, and then I don't need to do anything right here. Security configuration, I think that is good. Then I'll say next. Now what is going on right here now is that you need to then create a target database. What do we mean by this? When the glue, when the AWS glue crawler, when it crawls your data set in S3, that's the metadata. It needs to save it somewhere. Okay, it needs to save that metadata somewhere. You need to create a table for you. Basically, it's going to create a table, and basically database first and then a table. It's going to create that for you so that your data inside your Amazon S3 bucket can be temporarily stored inside a database. Okay, that is what basically this is doing. So that means that AWS Glue is basically creating a database and a table on top of the data you have in your S3 bucket. Okay, so what is the target database that we want to create for this? You can see we don't have anything, so we can then say add database. So when you click that, it opens in a new tab, and then I can enter a unique database name. Okay, I'm going to give it this name, guys. I'm going to give it this name, copy and paste, customer churn S3 glue database. I put it S3 as this because I'm saying that it is the S3 that I'm crawling. Okay, and then I'm putting customer churn because that is our data set. The location is optional, description is optional. I will not do anything to that. I will create the database. Now you can see that this is the database that we have just created. Now we will go back to this page right now, to our crawler. We will refresh this, and then we will assign, you can see, that database to this. Again, remember what I said, that we are creating this database so that the data on the S3 bucket can be temporarily stored inside this when we crawl. So the metadata and all of that, they will be on top of this. They will be inside this database temporarily. Okay, and then this glue crawler is going to create a table for us. Okay, Now, if you look at this right now, there is a crawler schedule. What is the frequency of you running this crawler? You can have on demand, you can have hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, custom. This one we are going to leave it as on demand. And the basic reason also is basic reason is that we are going to be using Airflow to trigger this. So that means is whenever we want, we are going to trigger it. And because Airflow is we are going to be setting our schedule interval on Airflow, right? So because of that, whenever Airflow runs, Airflow is going to trigger this to also run. Okay, I hope you guys understand this right now. So I will come right and I will say next. If I say next, you can see that we already have everything filled out. You can review and make edits and all of that. So in the case of this, I think everything looks good. I will do create crawler. Now you can see crawler has been created. How do I know? If I come back to, you see that it says one crawler successfully created. So I can come to these crawlers right here. If I come back to that crawler, you can see we have created this S3 glue crawler. I hope you guys understand this right now. Okay, now what is going to happen is that we want to now, we have created the crawler, but we have not crawled the data set, but we have given this glue crawler all the information that it needs to crawl the S3. So it knows the folder or the S3 bucket to crawl. It knows the database for it to store the metadata and the data temporarily. Okay, so in that case, now let us now run this manually for now. Remember, data run, we are going to use Airflow to trigger the glue job that will do all this for us. But for now, we need to first of all run the crawler, okay, so that it can crawl that S3 bucket and then be able to create infer schema and all of that from the data. So I will check this and then I'll come to run. Take note, this running of this crawler might take some time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it. I'm going to pause the recording for some time, okay, and then I'll come back again and then explain more things to you guys. So if I click run now, you can see it says the following crawler is now starting. You can see now it is in the running state. It is running. So I'm going to pause this video, and then when this state gets to stopping state, I will resume back the video so I can show you guys again. Okay, so now I'm going to stop the video. All right, guys, see you when the state changes. Now you can see that we are in the stopping state right now. Remember that it was in the running state, okay, and then now you can see that it is ready right now. It says it is, remember it was in the running state and then it changed to the stopping state. That means it has already crawled, and then while stopping and after stopping, then it says ready, and then it created one table for us right here. Okay, very good, guys. I hope you guys are getting this right now. Okay, now that it has created this right now, that is part of our data catalog right now. So what that means is that on top of this data catalog that has been just created, we can run query on Athena just for us to see what's going on. Let's see if we can even have access to this data that we just crawled. Okay, if I come to data catalog tables, you can see, if you come to data catalog tables that I just show you right here, you can see that you have tables. You can see that you have tables. That means that this is the name of the table that the glue crawler, the glue gave this the table that is inside this database, because we have crawled our S3 bucket. You can see the location of our data is inside this S3 bucket. It is a CSV file. You can see the classification is CSV, and this is the database that we created. So inside this database, okay, now a table has been created that has the metadata and also stores the data temporarily. You can see say a table is the metadata definition that represents your data, including its schema. A table can be used as a source or target in a job definition. So now we already have this right now. You can see table data and all of that. It has data. That's why you see view data. It has data. Okay, now for us to quickly take a look at what data we have, we can use the Amazon Athena. Remember what I showed right here? Amazon S3. You use the group crawler, and that's populate those data into the glue data catalog as the database and tables inside the database. And then we can use the Athena. You as a developer or data engineer or product owner, you can then use the or data analyst, you can then quickly use the Athena to to answer some of the questions that might be running on your mind. Okay, we are not going to be doing much of that, but I just want to show you what the Athena is. If you come right here and you type Athena, I didn't spell well, but however it came out, Athena. Okay, so I will just come right here to Athena. You can see, and what you can do right here is that you can come right here, AWS data catalog, because that's your data source. Like I showed you, that when you invert the schema and all of that, it goes into this data catalog. Okay, and that's why you have data sources, data catalog. Okay, inside there is a database which we created. We gave it a name. This is the database. For you that let's assume that I have a lot of glue job right here, then I'm going to be seeing more databases right here. Then I can select the one that I want. But in the case of this one, this is the one that I want, or since I only have one right here. And then what is the table inside my database? This is the table, cargo data set, my team bucket underscore YML. You can see customer ID, count, country. You can see all this. That was the data that I was showing you guys in my CSV file previously. If you remember this one that I was showing you guys previously, and it has 29 rows. I'm going to provide this data set in my GitHub so that you guys can have access to it. I believe I should be able to put that in GitHub, if not too heavy. I don't think it should be too heavy though. Okay, but if I'm not able, then I will look for some other means and I will put that in the description. Okay, but then you can see the schema that have been inferred. Okay, so let's just quickly do something right here. I can just come right here and to this table. I can just come and click this dot, and then I can say preview table. If I say preview table, you can see what is going right now. He's writing for me a query, select star from, this is the database name dot table name, just like you write it in an SQL. Just like you write your SQL. Okay, then it says limit 10. Now there is something that just happened immediately I did that. Look at what it says: no output location provided. An output location is required either through the work group result configuration setting or as an API input. So what is really happening right here, guys, is that for us to run Athena needs an S3 bucket where it's going to be saving your query results. Okay, so we need to create an S3 bucket where Athena query will be saved. So because all this query that you have right here, Athena needs to save it somewhere, and also the result. And that is why you see for this query result, it says no output location provided. So what we are going to do is to create a query. To create an S3 bucket for that. If I come to settings, let's see, you can see in this settings right here, there is no query result location. So what we can do is that we can go back to our S3. Let's go to this bucket and then create a bucket for that. I will say create bucket. I hope you guys are really understanding this, guys, because if you want to run Athena, the query and the query result of Athena needs to be stored somewhere in your S3 bucket. So you need to create a bucket for that and then point the Athena to that bucket. So now I give this bucket a name. Remember, it needs to be globally unique. Okay, and then AWS region I'm selecting. Make sure it's where you have your glue. So I have my Amazon US West basically, and then every other thing right here, as you can see, can be left the same way. I will say create bucket. You can see I say temporary bucket. Okay, now I can then go back to my Athena. This is my Athena right here. I can then say manage, click manage. I can say, you can see say location of query results. I can then come right here and say browse, and then I would select my query, my S3 bucket where I want the query results to be. I'll say choose, and then I'll leave every other thing the same. Okay, and I'll say save. You can see right here now that the query result location has been populated here. So I can go back to my Athena editor. Okay, you can see now that that error disappeared right here, guys, because Athena now can sense it that we have been able to create S3 bucket, and we have pointed Athena to that S3 bucket. Okay, so what we can do right here is we can run this select statement. I can say run. You see it has run, and you can see right here, guys, that we have our data right here. You can see we have customer ID, count, country, all of those things, just as we have it in our S3 bucket. Okay, just as we have it in that CSV file in our S3 bucket. You can see, guys, right here now that we have been able to crawl this S3. Okay, and then the metadata and the data is stored temporarily in the Glue data catalog, where we have a database and table created, and now you as a data person, you are able to use Athena to query that. Okay, I don't want to spend time in querying things right here, but you can explore. Let's say you want to do a select count asterisk, open my bracket, count asterisk. I can then say from, let me just copy all of this right here, so I don't need to be typing. I'll just do this, and then I will just highlight this and say run. You can see count 29. Remember that the CSV I showed you, the first one, right, was 29 rows. You can see that we have been able to get that. So now we have been at least been able to understand this part of the diagram, this S3 to Glue crawler, Glue data catalog, and to Amazon Athena. Okay, I hope you guys understand that right now. Okay, I hope that is pretty easy for you guys. Okay, very good, guys, very good, guys. So now that we have been able to do that, I'm going to stop this video right now because I don't want it to be too long. Okay, and then in another video we are going to learn how to provision Amazon Redshift cluster, and then we are going to create tables. Okay, and then eventually also crawl this, and then start creating our Apache, and then start populating our DAG so that we can automate this process. Okay, and again, guys, if you are new on this channel and you have not subscribed, I highly encourage you guys, please go ahead to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so that you can be notified whenever we release any of our videos. Okay, and please, guys, do not forget to like these videos, because when you like them, it motivates us to do more. It makes us to know that you guys really find our videos valuable, and then we can do more for you guys. Okay, so again, in the project for today, now you have been able to know how you can use the AWS Glue crawler to be able to crawl the Amazon S3 bucket, and then being able to then get into the Glue data catalog and using Athena to be able to query the result. Take note, you can go ahead and play around with different kinds of query right here, but I don't want to spend time on that. You can ask yourself some different questions and see if you can write some SQL query to be able to answer those questions. All right, guys, I will see you in the part 2, where we will start then working on the Amazon Redshift. See you guys. Bye.